Part 3. Our first question is, how many children did Elizabeth have? All right, so here she is. Elizabeth I was Queen of England and Ireland from November 17th, 1558 until her death. She was the daughter of the infamous Henry VIII and his second wife, Anne Boleyn. Anne Boleyn was executed 2.5 years after Elizabeth's birth, and so Elizabeth was declared illegitimate. Her half-brother, Edward the, first of all, that's 6th, so I need to fix that. 6th, ruled first until his death. Elizabeth's older half-sister, Mary I, ruled next. Roman Catholic Mary imprisoned Elizabeth because she feared Elizabeth was working for the Protestants. So she thought that, like, they were working to kill her, and they wanted to put Elizabeth into power. In 1558, Elizabeth became queen after Mary's death. She depended heavily on a group of trusted advisors. One of her first actions was the establishment of an English Protestant church. Her father, Henry VIII, had previously established the Anglican Church, a Protestant church, which was abolished by Mary. The English Protestant Church evolved into the Church of England, which still exists today. As with most queens, it was expected for Elizabeth to marry and produce an heir. Despite many courtships, she never had any children. Due to her lack of children and marriage, she became known as the Virgin Queen. So, 0. 0. I guess some of these are out of order. One of her first actions as queen was the establishment of a church. What was that church later called? And that was the Church of England. How many ships were part of the Spanish Armada? All right. In government and religion, she was a moderate. She tolerated and avoided persecution by religion. Elizabeth was cautious in foreign affairs. However, she could not avoid a war with Spain. Philip II attempted to court Elizabeth, trying to expand his territory to the English throne. After meeting Philip, Elizabeth turned him down. Being an absolute monarch, Philip took matters into his own hands and declared war in England, attempting to get the throne that way. So you saw in the other video where she didn't want to, they wanted to question the Catholics, essentially get rid of the Catholics is what it comes down to. And she was like, no, I'm not going to persecute my people just because of their religion. We're going to look at them because of the deeds that they do, essentially. So if they don't do anything treasonous, then they live in peace. All right. Elizabeth versus Philip and the Spanish Armada. Armada stands for Navy in the Spanish. Philip sent his fleet of 130 ships from Spain in August of 1588. Wait, what was that? 130. All right. Who was one of the leaders of the English Navy that took down one of the ships in the English Channel? Well, I said it a while ago, but... All right. The fleet was to bring an army to invade England. He sought to overthrow Elizabeth and the establishment of Protestantism in England. Philip was a Roman Catholic. If successful, it would also put a stop to England interfering with the Spanish Netherlands and their trade with Spain. So the Netherlands were across a, should have a map, an ocean. Hang on. All right, so if we look here, so here's the Netherlands, here's Spain, right? So you've got this area in here that Spain would have to go through if they're just going to the Netherlands, right? So England was right here, and they were getting in the way in here so that Spain couldn't get to these Netherlands. Now, later on, they're going to separate, but all right. The Armada chose not to attack the English fleet at Plymouth. They failed to anchor at another site after Francis Drake, English sea captain, captured one Spanish ship in the English Channel. Sir Francis Drake. What did the English call the storm that helped them defeat the Spanish Armada? Do I need to put this in the chat or no? Okay. All right, where are we at? English. The Armada was finally able to drop anchor off Calais. The Armada was attacked by an English fire ship, lighting a ship on fire and sending it towards your enemy without sailors on board. A battle ensued where the Spanish fleets were damaged and forced to abandon their rendezvous with the army it was supposed to bring to England. The army was blocked in by Dutch flyboats working with England. The Armada managed to regroup and attempt to go north after the English fleet up the east coast of England. So they tried to go up this way. The commander ordered a return to Spain, but severe storms rained down on the Armada and a large number of vessels were wrecked. These storms were later dubbed the Protestant wind by the English, who believed God had been on their side. Of the initial 130 ships, over a third failed to return. So Protestant wind is number 5. What beliefs did King James have that created a struggle between the king and Parliament? All right, after Elizabeth. James I. When Queen Elizabeth I died, her cousin James, King of Scotland, became King of England. James's reign began a long series of struggles between the king and Parliament. King James believed in divine right and needed to answer to no one. His religious policies angered Puritans in Parliament. The Puritans wanted to make the church as holy as possible, but James refused to make the changes. So Puritans are going to be they're going to be Protestants. So it's going to be, they're going to believe they should represent the people. They have the right. And so they're going to battle him who thinks, he's the ultimate authority. All right. So he believed in divine right is the answer to number 6. What did King Charles show by signing the Petition of Right? There they are arguing. All right. James's son, Charles I, continued the tensions between the king and Parliament. In 1628, Parliament forced Charles to sign a petition of right. That should be right. By signing, Charles showed the king answered to another power. So it was symbolic. So by him signing it, it meant he couldn't just do what he wanted. Immediately, it showed that he had to answer to someone. So because of that, Charles decided to dissolve Parliament, going directly against the Petition of Right. Other actions of Charles caused Scotland to threaten to invade England. To meet the danger, Charles needed money, and to raise taxes, he needed Parliament. Once a new Parliament was created, it quickly passed laws to limit his power. Charles responded by trying to arrest its leaders. So, let's see. All right. So, what did King by sign the petition of right? No. He showed President was around to no. He showed he only answered God. He showed the king answer to here we go. He showed the king answer to another power. All right. What did King Charles do after Parliament tried to limit his power? He worked with them. He exiled them. He killed them directly. He tried to arrest his leaders. Its leaders. This was the bloodlet that removed James II from power and forced him to flee to France. Okay. From 1642 to 1649, an English civil war broke out between Charles and his royalists against the support of Parliament. Many of the members of Parliament were Puritans. Under the leadership of Oliver Cromwell, the Puritans won. They accused Charles of treason, and after a trial had him executed, the first time a king had ever been executed in public. Cromwell became a military dictator until 1658, crushing an Irish rebellion during his rule. Soon after his death, the government collapsed. And Cromwell was beheaded. And the people were just furious. Things were not like Cromwell had gotten rid of everything. He got rid of plays. He got rid of hanging out, going out, all kinds of stuff. And people were sick of it. The new parliament asked Charles's older son to restore the monarchy. Charles II began his rule in 1660. His reign was a period of calm after all the fighting. After his death in 1685, his brother became king, King James II. James II was pro-Catholic, which scared the Protestant-leaning parliament. In 1688, 7 members of parliament contacted James's older daughter Mary and her husband William of Orange, Prince of the Netherlands, both Protestants. They wanted to replace James II. In the Glorious Revolution, James II was removed in a bloodless revolution that forced James to flee to France. William and Mary agreed to the laws made by Parliament and agreed to accept the Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights guaranteed English people certain rights. From then on, no king or queen could rule England without the consent of Parliament. The Bill of Rights is very similar to the Bill of Rights. So that's what the 16. That's what it was based on. All right, where are we at? One was based on the other. So this was the Glorious Revolution. Number 9 was the Glorious Revolution. And number 10, what was the result of agreeing to the laws made by Parliament, agreeing to accept the Bill of Rights? Outlaw, nope. English people had certain rights and no king could rule without, I do believe it's that one. King, queen had divine, Parliament could be, Parliament had complete power. Yeah, English people had certain rights and no king or queen could rule without Parliament.